invitation. We are all eagerly looking forward to a wonderful poetry session. I also take this opportunity to congratulate the Department of English, Karim City College, for organizing this program and bringing such an admirable academic. I express my best wishes to the department and its students for a wonderful poetry session ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. This has been a very special day for all of us. Offline, we have had two wonderful offline programs organized by our students at the college today. So we had an Urdu Batbazi, event, and we also had a multilingual poetry event where students had, they had organized a kind of poetic drama where spirits of various dead poets were met in heaven, and they were having a poetry reading. So it has been a wonderful day for us at the department, and we are very grateful that we are concluding with an event of this nature where we get to hear poets from continents and showcasing their best work. So thank you very much. Yahya sir, would you like to also deliver a brief note of welcome for our guests?
Please, Bashudara, please go ahead.
So in that case, we will straight away come into poetry. Poetry means different things to different people. Poetry is a way of life. It's a way of living. It's a way of dwelling in life. It's an alternate way of looking at things. So there are numerous approaches to poetry, and one idea is to acquaint our students with this diversity of approaches to poetry, how to read poetry, how to live poetry, how to write poetry. So I would invite one by one all our guests here, and all of you have been given a time of 10 to 15 minutes, I guess. And you're welcome to read your poems and also to talk about poetry, what poetry means to you, and how you relate to poetry, how poetry manifests itself through you. And we are looking forward to a very rich feast of poetry and ideas in poetry. So we will begin with our closest neighbor, that is Shagufta Hussain, and I would invite her to our closest neighbor from Bangladesh. So Shagufta ma'am, over to you for your poems and your ideas in poetry. You need to unmute yourself, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Adab, namaskar. Very good evening to you. Thank you for giving me this honor to invite me in this platform. Poetry is expression, poetry is life. There are theories of Wordsworth, don't want to go into it. And it's a long day's journey into life. So I would like to recite three of poetry divided based on the main issues, which is human rights. First of all, I'd like to read out the love poetry, which was published in Academy of Heart and Mind, and also the Voices Project, USA, Canada. Title, Yet You Are Mine. If one day all the ice from the Himalayas to the Alps melt, even then you are mine. If one day Niagara Falls goes away to the Sahara, yet you are mine. If one day there is not a drop of water left from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, still then you are mine. If one day the Ganges, the Danube, the Rhine, the Nile parch themselves, here through you are mine. If one day the Vesuvius and the Etna get the scent while burning continuously, still then you are mine. If one day The Third World War initiates to destroy the world, still you are mine. If one day all the light forsakes the sun and the moon, then you are mine. If one day the snow in the Siberia ever nurtures green crops, yet you are mine. And still you are mine, you are mine, you are mine, you are mine. Thank you. Now, the poem. They are under the ground, no grave, no funeral. After the scavenger's feast, finally the skeletons are under the ground. They were torched alive, machine guns, bullets piercing their bodies, mutilated, butchered, raped. Politicians call it genocide. We leave it to our leaders. They raise the issue in the international community. Yet the restless criticism goes on. They fly cases in the International Court of Justice. Here we rally, make human chains, we debate in the talk shows, seminars, workshops, tea storm in the Facebook. All in vain. Where is justice? Goddess Athena hides her face in shame. Blind lady of justice is blind to see the massacre. Where Nobel laureate of peace remains calm, defends genocide with lies in the International Court of Justice. Where the voiceless yearning seems to be lost in the air, justice for who? Who are they? They are Rohingyas. Stateless, hopeless, and voiceless. Why? Maybe they are the children of it. And finally, the poem Divine Love. Stretch thy hands, those who say about thee with words of despair, merely weave walls of words. You are not, oh beloved, talk to me for a while and bless my at times with your bliss. See me with the gentle rays. I can listen to you in the sound of waves. I see you in a blazing sun, from the blade of grass to the twinkle stars. You make the breath of life, O eternal sweet. I am relieved of the fatigue of the day. Stretch thy hands, put it on mine. Paint the images of life with a brush of beauty. In this beautiful evening, it was you who symbolized the living message of this universe, my beloved. Thank you. Dhanyabad. Shukran. Dhanyabad.
Thank you, Shagufta ma'am, for these very, very beautiful poems. You carried us through a range of emotions, taking us from love to politics, to injustice, to the larger love that binds us as human beings to one another. So thank you for this, wide range of verses that you took us through. I would next like to call upon Mawar Marzuki from Malaysia. Mawar, are you there?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good
Mawar.
evening, everyone. Assalamualaikum. It's great to see a lot of students, English students here, I believe. Dr. Yeah, I'm also a lecturer and in an English department. in Malaysia. Do I have to introduce myself? Can you hear me?
Yes, Mawar.
Yes, okay. I'm going to read a poem. Actually, I want to read other poems, but seeing a lot of students here, I would like to read a poem that actually I wrote for my students, for my student who came to me and said, please, madam, please teach me how to write a poem like you. And this is what I have written for him, because he gave up. The title is Teach Me How to Write a Poem. I heard a strong, hopeful voice. Teach me, please, to write the lines as beautiful as Rumi's. I summoned a passing wind and chose a piece of swirling breeze to put in his open palm. He gazed into the emptiness. The wind is indivisible in its abundance.
শেষ হয়ে যাবে একটু
Teach me,
10টার মধ্যে শেষ
please, to write a poem. Don't you see? The wind is just a breeze, silent and empty, said he. I chose another passing, swirling breeze for him to hold. I can't write a poem with my fingers around the wind. You are my teacher. Teach me how to write a poem like you. He opened his palm once more. The wind swirled and disappeared. Young man, the wind is abundance, but it's invisible. Once you felt its existence in your hand, now write them. Write about the wind that wandered away, but had once danced peacefully in your palm. That's the English version. Can I read a Malay version of it? Ajarkan aku berpuisi. Kau katakan padaku, ajarkan aku berpuisi. Lantas ku petik selembar angin yang berpusar dan kuletakkan di genggamanmu. Dengan pantas kau buka genggamanmu. Angin itu berpusar laju dan menghilang. Aku tidak boleh meraut pensel puisi dengan tangan yang menggenggam angin, katamu. Ajarkan aku berpuisi sepertimu. Ku kejar lembar angin itu, ku petik ia, ku letakkan semula di genggamanmu. Anak muda, angin itu telah terbang, tapi telah kau rasa pusarannya di dalam genggamanmu. Nah, tulislah puisi itu tentang angin yang telah berlalu, tapi pernah menari lembut di genggamanmu. That's the Bahasa Melayu version, and I hope the students here, if you want to write the poetry, don't give up. Keep on writing. Thank you very much.
Mawar, wouldn't you like to read another poem?
Oh, can I? Okay.
Yes, of course. Please.
All right. I will read something from the poems that's in the Literature Foundation Jamshedpur Gaya. Did I say it correctly? Jamshedpur.
Jamshedpur, yes.
Jamshedpur, okay. I'm going to read a poem entitled I Saw a Woman in the Wind. This is for my friend. She had a lot of problem, and one day I saw her dancing in the wind. I saw a woman in the wind. Is she escaping from the pesky parts of being one of the women who wish that pain can travel through the wind, the caress so tender, the stolen kisses of her first love? I saw a woman in the wind. Does she want Does she want to be Dugra, that Pantheon believed to be riding a lion? Strength, bold with beauty, tenderness, and freedom, suddenly bouncing with the passing instant of time, embracing the sudden moment. I saw a woman in the wind who cared not if she doesn't have wings, which grows like Maleficent on her supple limbs, because the moment with the wind is healing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mawar, for that wonderful, for these wonderful poems, and also because you read in your language. It was good to, receive the meaning of a poem in English and then hear it in the language in which it was perhaps originally written. So thank you for introducing, poetry to us in a beautiful language. Thank you for that. According to the list that I have been given, I'm supposed to be the third reader, well, I think I'll just read one poem. And this is a piece that has been recently published in the Economic and Political Weekly this week. It came out today, so I think I'll read this. It's titled Aid to Forgetting. Aid to Forgetting. Step 1. Clearly remember what you wish to forget. Note every detail that must be unmemorized. Leaving nothing to chance, bring, with the Pied Piper's patience and precision, all rats out of memory holes. For reckoning is important, even in an effort to lose. Step 2. Convince yourself why this must be done. Avoid falling into empathy traps. Do not travel around the idea. Traveling tends to erode the ego. Hold on to your grievance like a drowning body clutching at straw. Use every prejudice to strengthen your case till the unclear becomes obvious. Step 3. Break something. It were best to choose a habit, routine, or law. Heritage pieces, as long as they are part of the chronology, will also do. If they are hard to break, rename them. Alter their covenants. Declare they will henceforth remind you of something else. But break something you must, even if it is trust. For violence alone can keep rage poised restlessly at the edge. Step 4. Re-narrativize, since one story can only be defeated by another. Craft a tale that suits you best and superimpose on your selected material. Some parts may not agree to begin with, but keep trying. There'll always be a plot that twists your way. Find it, embellish it, till the new story is too attractive to let go. Then fit into it. You will see your destination clearer now. Step 5. Try remembering what you forgot. There's every chance things have blurred in your head and will not respond to recall. Try anyways. If the dizziness persists, you have successfully forgotten. But it so happens the mind seldom deletes all. Some files will surface years later and completely out of place. If they beget nostalgia or regret, that will be the real test, proving you had forgotten. These may also be times you will wonder if it was at all necessary to forget. But take a sedative and move on. Always sanguine, you have done well. Thank you very much. And with this, I think we will go over to our next speaker, our next poet, that is Dima Shahabi, who's joining us from the US. Over to you, Dima.
Thank you so much, Basudra. And thank you to the faculty of Kareem City College. This is my second time with you, and I'm very grateful for your warm invitation always. And thank you also to the wonderful readers by my side. I can't, it's just been so enjoyable. I'd like to start with a ghazal that collects the voices of both powerful and quotidian women in history. The opening couplet begins with a song or a phrase from a song from world-renowned Egyptian singer Kulthum. And this is called Ghazal Wasted Life. One hush One stage, she floats at odds with wasted life, singing, before my eyes saw you was wasted life. What do dandelion, basil, and oleander mitigate his pain or her fingertips on the gauze of wasted life? First of the rescue rains, her wet eyes. Damp lashes excavate dreams, but hide no scars for wasted life. A ghusn, my love, doesn't lean into the slightest breeze. It wells its roots through river pleats with no pause for wasted life. Anbara scrambles to find her love in a labyrinth of gallows. She sees him in a lagoon of skin and bones, claws of wasted life. A long drive to the airport, dawn light the distance is always a carcass from wasted life.
Wow.
Don't weep like a woman for what you couldn't defend as a man, she says, as Boabdil withdraws to wasted life. A light not touched by fire is nothing but a thirst for belonging, and your stubble sting against my mouth's applause for wasted life.
Wow. Beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. This next poem is called Gate of Freedom. It was inspired by Palestinian hunger striker Samer Asawi's moral fortitude in the face of draconian detention. The rapid growth of children, the mediocrity and spontaneity of spring, and a diminishing mother's role in her child's life are juxtaposed against larger tragedies such as death from hunger and death from disease as well. Gate of Freedom. Lovers of asparagus, alive as hummingbirds, place their nostrils over a low cloud, wet of air. It's the year of green hills in California, that early spring. The evening is blue split between the first snow on the mountaintop and a computer screen where news of a man whose body is eating itself skies the long-stemmed breaths in the room. Do not weep if my heart fail, he says. I'm your son. Gate of love. Son, I have. Your hands bulge with pear tree blossoms. You are bellow and sweat, hunger and bread. I part the fog to find you through a grimy crowd of kids.
Wow.
Before you soil into the affection that soils you in public, I'll promise you a truce. Gate of the sun. Bristling down the chemical-scraped hall, uttering assalamu alaikums to the young Arab patients, their heads sagging to the side, their bodies a shrine to tumors, husks of overgrown cells. One boy stares through a sieve of darkness hewn around dark gray clouds. Gate of peace. I have so many suns withering, I whisper to the Chinese elm as news of the man whose body is eating itself disputes with the bresaola on crisp baguette that I'm eating in a garden among the flung out blue jays and limping daddy long legs. No hymns left for me, only a small neck the sun gnarls through. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for these wonderful poems, especially the ghazal. You know, you introduced a wonderful form for our students. Thank you so much. We next move on to Shadab ma'am, who's also joining us from the US. Over to you, Shadab ma'am.
Good morning, good evening, assalamu alaikum, adab. These are all the greetings in our virtual world right now, but also happy World Poetry Day. I'm so happy to be with all of you and to be with the students. Poetry is definitely something to celebrate. And early on, you said what does poetry mean to you? And I would say that it's the art of saying difficult things in a way that, as we heard all these beautiful poems just now, and Dima's poem that sort of brings all these very sort of complex things with so much beauty and so much power. And so when we think and feel as poets and we put our thoughts and feelings in poetry, I think that takes a lot out of us. We suffer too. And so I'm going to read a poem called How to Care for a Poet. And this is for all of us, each one of us. How to care for a poet. Discard old sponges. Wash her bitter with dried gourd. This to surface the memory of aniseed. She has walked down a staircase all night. Each step was a no. Be a tall window in her dream, a light that rises from basement to terrace. Pick thorns from her hair, spasms from her ankle. She abides in a storm, her suitcase full of stopped plucks. Paste a Persian garden on her door, a gazebo of swans. Promise her wild grass and oil lamps. Fold her at least 9 times in the crushed velvet you found her in. Keep her aglow with moth wings.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to read a couple of poems. There's war going on right now, but there's always been war. And much of my poems are about the wars that I've witnessed since my childhood. I'm going to read 2 poems that appear side by side in my book. Just 1 second. One of them is called Iman, and it's for a Palestinian girl who was sprayed with bullets by Israeli soldiers as she walked to school. This is Rafa, 2004. Her name means faith. And 2 figures appear in this poem, and if you happen to be Muslim, you know who these figures are. This Sarai and Hagar, which are biblical names for Sarah and Hajra, the wives of Abraham. And so this poem is called Iman. Come be spun in the nightly vortex where I am Sarai's child sometimes, and sometimes Hagar's. My mother's, their golden dust rises between us when Jerusalem's trees morph into green tanks. Your loquacious mouth shapes missiles with my name on them, and of both my mothers. Come kiss each missile on the forehead before you strike this house. Poems that were doors will forever close and split into ancient pebbles. Come like rain falling on the tanks. Your sleeves dry and mighty with no tears to wipe. Come turn in my grave where every flower ticks like a bomb. And I'm going to read another poem that I wrote years ago. It's called Petrushka. And it's for the war that was more part of my personal experience, having grown up in Pakistan. This is about the Soviet war in Afghanistan. And this applies to Ukraine today, but in my childhood, this was the war that went on and on for decades, and then changed into other conflicts, as we know. So this poem is called Petrushka, and Petrushka is a fictional figure. And there's a epigram, which is a Russian folk proverb. Even beyond the mountains, there are human beings. Lights smashed on snow. Electricity swirling like a carnival song in one's head. Painted on such a large scale, each dancing nerve offers a rhyme, then shrivels with a blue spark. St. Petersburg has the face of a clock wound by the wise, misread by the crowd. Was it sawdust for a body that was Petrushka's mischance, or having a soul? A puppet would hang from a pendulum in the city square, and its sway would make no heads turn either way. It is the soul that burns. When light breaks on this snow again, there will be some bodies lolling, more souls burning. The crowd will be its own mirror. An untampered clock will remind that beyond the Hindu Kush, there are human beings.
Wow.
And I'm going to end with this poem called Passing Through Peshawar. I know each poplar and willow of this town, how telephone wires sag with the weight of belligerent crows. The Tonga horses wait at red lights. I know afternoon shadows on slate verandas, the squeaking of a rusted seesaw, the breaking open of a walnut in a door hinge, its embossed shell, a secret cracking. The winter sun warming the mosque's marble, plums sold in crates on the roadside, corn with salt and lime. The radio at the tandoor playing filmy songs. The whiff of Lux soap. I almost say to you, look out the window. Look, look, look. My library with beetle-eaten furniture, my raw silk bazaar, my ancient fort, and look, the bakery that sells pink coconut rolls. And look, there I used to get my haircut. One turn, and my town will once again socket into its timeless hollow what I remember, what I know. The bus will pass all these things before you click pause on your video game. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very generous and lovely feast of poems that you took us through. And when you began by saying that poetry is, it's a way of saying difficult things in a beautiful way, I think your line where you say that the poet abides in the storm will stay with us. So thank you very much for these beautiful poems. We move over next to Nizar Sartavi, who is joining us from Jordan. Over to you, Nizar sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and good morning too. I'd like to say I'm so blessed to be with such beautiful poetesses and poets. I know in the US they have abandoned the word poetess. They call us all poets. I still cling to that poetess word. I love it. And greetings to all the students attending this virtual poetry meeting. Happy Poetry Day. I love you all. Just one little request I want to make of anybody who has written about Palestine. Could you send me the poem? I'd love to translate it and maybe publish it, and we'll send you a copy, virtual usually, if the one that I can get maybe. Anyways, I will start with the Bedouin's song. I'm just a Bedouin. I live in a tent, cozy and fair, its fabric woven from rough goat hair, a shady cover in the summer, a rainproof shelter in the winter. My positions, a single garment, a loose black robe I call a thobe, a pair of worn out sandals, a coffee kit, and other things I put in a sack that may not fit with countrysiders' appetites or urbanites. My homeland, all this infinite expanse of deep beige sands, my sole companion, a faithful camel who carries me and all my stuff. Together we cross the endless desert. And when I sing some cameleer song, he gets so light out of the light and makes as if to fly towards the blue sky.
Wow.
So much for the camel.
Wow.
And Bedouin. I move to another poem, Ahd al-Tamimi's Dreams. You must have, you may have heard of Ahd al-Tamimi. She lives in a little village near Jerusalem that I visited when I was barely 10 or 11. Ahd al-Tamimi slapped a soldier, an Israeli soldier, who was attacking the village and her home too. The shriveled red hair flying freely upon her red face, flying freely like her green blue eyes, roaming freely beyond the walls of her village house, beyond the green mounts that stretched for miles and resting on the blue Mediterranean in the west. As its white mellow waves whispered, "Good morning, sweet one. Good morning, sweet one," every morning, and "See you tomorrow, ginger-haired one," every eve. Her name, Ahd al-Tamimi. Her stolen dreams, to wake up one day and see no aliens in her land and play soccer, to play it freely. My second poem is for another Palestinian. His name was Ibrahim Abu Thuraya from Gaza, and he was shot dead. He used the wheelchair, and he went till the barbed wires, and then they shot him dead. So now the wheelchair is there, still there. The title of the poem is "For Sale, a Wheelchair." For sale, a wheelchair in good condition. The seat is black, wide, warm and clean, blood stains washed off. The two push handles, soft and comfy. They have been held with love and care. The armrests rarely have been used. Footrest and footplate still brand new. The owner used it for the last time when he left the Shatti refugee camp to join the crowds who hurled stones, their live ammunition across barbed wires that girdled Gaza. The 20-year-old amputee jumps off the wheelchair, falls on his knees. He crawls towards the prison siege, his right hand holding a Palestinian flag, his left hand fingers making a V. A sniper on the other side smiles, and he takes aim, and whiz, the bullet finds the stubborn head, and he falls dead. For sale, a very special wheelchair with a history extraordinaire, lying there like a question mark above the homeland. The price, your blood, his blood, her blood, or mine. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much for these very poignant poems. And we move over to Waqas Khwaja, who's joining us from the US with, I'm sure, another very grand palette of poems for us. Over to you, Waqas, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ji, and thank you, Yahya Ibrahim Ji, and for this very gracious invitation for this wonderful event. the poems that we have heard, and I've enjoyed so much. Beautiful, powerful poems, very moving poems from poets I admire. And I don't know how I can follow that act, but I will give it a try. I must say, for me, poetry is just having a conversation with myself, which I can't have with anyone else, it seems to me, or having a conversation, period, because I feel I'm very clumsy, and I bring the coals to the muse I serve. Sometimes it ignites, or they ignite, and sometimes they don't. So I'll share with you two poems. One is rather longish, and if you will indulge me, it is 5 or 6 minutes to read, but the first one is shorter. It's called If I Were Any Good. Unprepared and unmannerly, yet I burn to receive you. My heart to unclose itself and empty of all, not you. Snatch this sheet from my body, tear this shirt off, strip me of my clothing of skin, and yet I am not naked enough for you. Surely my soul has a right against me, surely my body too. From heart to heart, a narrow window opens its shut doors. Love and gall, severity and gentleness is all in your service. But first, obduracy, denial, turning away in anger and pique, so I may belong to myself entirely before gentleness comes. I wander into a secluded thicket, distracted and dazed. If I were any good, would I be obliged to tarry here? I am become the bearer of your fate and find myself nowhere. Sour, sour words, that is all I have for kindness you show me, ready ever to squander dreams like an adult beggar, recklessly wagering all on a fickle promise, your knife at my throat. My bed I make on this stony ground. I talk in my sleep. Thank you. Here's the second poem. It's called Falling from the Skies. Neither God nor beast, nor one by nature bound to kind, I belong to no one but myself. Your language cannot speak for me. From your texts and signs and images, I unfetter and set myself free. Let me start at the very beginning. And what is the beginning, after all, if I may not choose it for myself and make of it whatever I please? The boy tumbling from the sky was not Icarus, but a neighbor's son who fell off the 5th floor roof, backing away while flying a kite. That man who mourned him, not his father, but his father's brother, breaking the bones of his hands as he banged his fist again and again on a tabletop. No one talks of the mother and how she felt, or whether she even existed. No one knows if the father grieved, or where he was when the incident happened, and how he reacted to it when he got the news. Sing, muse of silence and evasion, of cowardice and fear and greed, of prejudice and bias, of separation and of going away. Get this middle of my song to soar, for it has hit hard ground and lies all smashed. Pretend not that there is courage in this world and honor even among thieves, or love. All a matter of centering, gathering energy, inventiveness and wit, to focus on the self, its cravings and expectations. Sing of selfishness, serenade avarice and rapacity. Do not, please, mourn. There is nothing whatsoever to mourn. I want to hear that voice only. It doesn't matter who sings or what it sings. The singing, that is all. The song does not matter. The words do not. The subject. I do not care about truth. Don't keep telling me about it. If it warms you or brings you light or into light, that is for you, not me. I do not care for light. Darkness is all. Its work is done in secret, and I am enmeshed in secrets, stories, tales, legends, myths, fables. Give me the voice in the darkness singing. I do not care what it sings, or if it sings of lies that feel like truth, or of truth that is all a lie. If only the voice be true. I was so scared of his grief, I did not dare to condole with him. Did he even want condolences? Or was it his grief that nourished him so that he did not wish to share it with anyone, that he wished to carry it with him all his life, with that head of ruffled hair and that distracted forever look on his face, the forever trembling of his hands? Yet he kept his sense of humor for all that, and the fund of poetry he could reproduce spontaneously for every occasion. Start again. I want to hear your account from the beginning. Tell me about your perfect world. Tell me about its imperfect inhabitants. Tell me about your practiced votaries, about laws that twist a knife in your back, about custom that kills with cinnamon poison, this allegiance to you, this honoring of you, or dishonoring, whatever it is that devotees do in their eagerness to pay homage, this fouling to consecrate that I am obliged to confront every day, every night. So he wished to honor only you, since he had pledged himself to you alone, and you would have him pay obeisance to others you had shaped and breathed into existence, as you did him, and whatever else you fashioned or expelled as one possessed out of the clay and sticky sap of that dark fire, to forever serve and extol you. And all this daily despoiling of bodies, this carnage of dreams, the result only of a quarrel between the two of you? How I wish to divest myself of this shroud of your narrative, tailored by your aversions and antipathies, stitched from your partiality and prejudice, to escape its seams and sutures that entice only into the maze of your ordering and disordering by that soiled thread of meaning handed out to me with my birth, its spool unraveling in my hands. Someone else has spun the spool of my life. Someone else flies the kite as I keep my eyes on the spool to prevent the string from snagging. The spool that unwinds and snares me, snares breath and voice. Give me back that breath. Return the voice, the singing, the singing. Those that are gone and those that mourn them are all dead now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very, very moving poem to conclude the evening with. It leaves us with a lot of food for thought. It's a digest of what we have been through this evening, the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows of life that have been so beautifully documented. Thank you very much for that very beautiful piece. And with this, we come to the end of a very memorable evening. We have heard poets from across the globe. We have heard different forms of poetry. We have touched upon varied themes. And I believe that the glimpses of these will live with our students, many of whom are very, very creative, and they're doing wonderfully at their age, writing good poetry, interested in poetry, reading poetry, which in itself is a blessing to poetry lovers like us. Because I keep on feeling that prose manages to get across. There are many avenues for prose to get across, but poetry cannot get across until you engage with poetry. So poetry is like the ghost. It must be spoken to before it speaks. And we are very grateful that there are students who are speaking to poetry, who are trying to draw out its best. And we hope that such conversations, continue, such dialogues continue. And with this, we, as I said, we come to a brilliant closure of a very memorable evening. And I would invite our faculty member, Professor Ashok Dash, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. Dash, sir, do we have you here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Basu. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, very much.
Good evening, everyone. It has been a very rewarding experience for all of us today to hear poets of consequence from across the globe, thanks to the technology which has made it happen. We heard a lot of things about poetry. What is poetry? how it is to be read, how it is to be written, how it is to be communicated. Can the poetry be defined at all? If not, then what is poetry? So all these things have been dealt with great details by all these poets, if not in their words, but in their poetry itself. Poetry speaks what poetry is. That is what is poetry to my mind. Okay. And if I can give another term, poetry is a paradox. I am and I am not. I exist, I do not exist. So what is right and what is wrong, we fail to understand. And it is where poetry comes to our rescue. Poetry makes a conversation take place. Poetry can make us see the world around us, see the world within us with meaningful and detailed perception. Today, we heard Ma'am Sagupta Hussain speaking on love poetry, divine love, politics. So it's ranging from the mundane to the ethereal. A big area has been covered. Thank you, Sagupta ma'am, for your deliberation and your insight into the poetic flights. We had a very good poetry session with Mawar Mazruki ma'am of Malaysia, who gave the direction to our students how to write poem. And her words, keep writing, don't give up. That is a great moral booster to our students. Thank you, ma'am, for your words of encouragement to our students and your insightful poetry. We had heard Dima Shahabi ma'am of California, USA, and her poem of Ghazal was really worth listening and worth deliberating upon. Thank you, Dima Sahibi ma'am, for your beautiful poem and the message that you have propagated. I am simply spellbound by the poems read out by Shadab Zist Hasmi ma'am, How to Care for a Poet. That's really wonderful poem. And Imam, that is also a very good poem. Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful poetry that you have shared with us. I am also thankful to Mr. Nizar Satwari from Jordan, who dealt with the issues of Palestinians in his poems, and which was an eye-opener for us all. And the last poetry reading was from Sir Waqas Khwaja from USA, whose poems were so deeply emotive, so deeply meaningful. We simply would like to listen, listen, and listen without any limit. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And to tell us that poetry is a conversation with me. So it is a kind of a monologue. It is not a dialogue. If it is a dialogue, I am conversing with myself. I am not one self. I am myriad selves. That is what poetry speaks of. And your last poem, Falling from Skies, it deals with a lot of philosophy. It deals with metaphysics, physical, and it goes beyond physical and touches ethereal. So it was a nice evening, rewarding evening, which is touching upon different shades of poetry, different techniques of writing poetry. I, from the core of my heart and on behalf of the Department of English, pay my heartfelt thanks to all these great poets who thrilled us, who entertained us, who put a food for thought, and who widened our horizon of knowledge. Thank you, all these great poets, once again. I would be failing in my duties if I don't pay thanks to our own poet Basu ma'am, whose poetry that she read, Forgetting. It's a wonderful poem dealing with different states to forget. When I was teaching the students, I had read one short story where there was a story which dealt with address. The best way to forget everything is to forget the address. Don't reach the destination. So here she has brought about the techniques of forgetting in her unforgettable manner. Thank you, Basu ma'am, for your great poem that you have shared with us. I also pay thanks to all the students who had been a patient listener and who I am sure must have been amply rewarded. And I also thank all others, all members of the audience who have been with us this evening. Thank you. Thank you all once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Good night, Shubharatri.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Salam.
And those who are in USA, good day.
Good day, sir. And happy Poetry Day to all.
Thank you so much.
Assalamu
Thank
alaikum.
you.
Adab.
Walaikum salam.
Take care. Take care, all of you. Good day.
Take care
Thank you.
too. It's been an honor meeting you all.
Yes, it's an honor. Actually, I have another
Of course.
program, but I could not move because all the poems are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you,
good
ma'am.
night
Thank you
all.
so much. Good night.
Assalamualaikum.
Salamat tidur, I think. It's in good night. Shukran.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you.
Yeah, shukran is
Thank you all. Good day. Good day and good night.
Good night.
Good night and good day.
Thank you so much, sir.
May I leave? Kule?
Yes, yes. Yes,
Have I
sir.
left? Shall I leave? No, let senior members leave first.